Yes, today we're looking at Sonic Rush Adventure. This is another DIMPS title, however this time it's a sequel to the popular Sonic Rush, which released 2005 on the DS, this released 2007, also on the Nintendo DS. However, unlike the first game, this one seems to be pretty underlooked. And by that I mean is that this game doesn't get a whole lot of coverage. In fact, I would easily say it's the most underrated Sonic game, because there really isn't that many underrated games, but this one definitely fits that criteria. It has everything you like about Sonic Rush, but a little bit more. And yeah, that's really what it comes down to. If you like Sonic Rush, well, this one basically is more of that, with a little bit improved gameplay. But before we get into the gameplay, let's get into the story, since there actually isn't that much to say about the story here. It's actually pretty thin. Sonic and Tails were flying in the air when suddenly they were knocked out the sky when they were introduced to a storm which they were trying to investigate. It's not really that well explained. They end up watching up on an island where they meet the new character, Marine the Raccoon. Don't expect to see a whole lot of this character. This is pretty much her only main appearance. The other time she reappeared was in Sonic Speed Simulator, a mobile game. And even then, it's not even the most popular one. So overall, this character is... she has an okay design. She's got boomerang pigtails because her character's Australian. Yes, she's the first, I feel like, Sonic character that actually have a nationality attached to them in the main games. I know in the comics, obviously, but in the games, I don't think any character had that, other than Sonic being a quote-unquote American in Japan only. Anyway, there is a reason why this character hasn't reappeared in any other games. One, she is in a different dimension. Yeah, spoiler alert, they got trapped in a different dimension, being Blaze's soul dimension. And the fact that this character, well, she's not very likable. In fact, most of the dialogue of this game, which was quite a lot, it's just her ranting, raving about how she's better than everybody. And every other character will be like, yeah, sure. Quite literally, every character finds her annoying. It's not good character writing. Most of the dialogue in the game is her saying, yeah, I can do this, mate, so I got this, but I'm actually scared. And like, Sonic and Tails are like, yeah, whatever. And that's about pretty much the entirety of the story. I'm not even joking. There's literally a scene where Blaze is like, I am so tired of your bullshit, and calls her a nuisance. And she's like, I can't be that, right guys? And they just say nothing, because literally, not even the main characters here, who are supposed to be good guys, they just don't like her. That's not good characters. Sonic shouldn't be an asshole, just a random girl. That's literally how they rate this game, because she is that annoying, and I just don't know what they were going for. This game actually has a new main villain, being Captain Whisker, who is just a robot pirate, and that's about it. He has literally nothing else going for him. Design-wise, he's actually kind of forgettable. He's like, you think a robot pirate would be kind of interesting, but no, he's just kind of lame, and he wants a jeweled scepter, and it's important in this game only. It has a vague thing that can do, which is bad, and we have to stop him. And of course, we discover that this dimension is actually the Soul Dimension. Why? Well, because they want Blaze in the game. That's why. There really is no reason for this to be an altered dimension, other than the fact that, yeah, Blaze the Cat's here, because we had to make her part of a different dimension. We had to write convoluted stuff like that. I seriously don't understand the idea of Blaze being from a different dimension. I mentioned this in other videos. I think it just doesn't make any sense, and it just basically means you can't use this character because they thought that'd be a good idea. It's not. Because we learn a lot more about the Soul Dimension. It's just full of koalas. Like, every character here is like a koala. There's like some Yeti, a polar bear guy, I think. But other than that, everyone else is a koala. Don't ask why everyone's a koala. The only other character here is another robot guy named Johnny, who races Sonic for Chaos Emeralds. And Sonic's surprised he's a villain near the end, because all he did was race him to get Chaos Emeralds, so of course he wasn't a bad guy. But yeah, this is another thing that just didn't make any sense. This guy clearly was evil from the get-go. Come on, Sonic. So once you beat the final boss of the normal game, you have to redo everything to get every Chaos Emerald and Soul Emerald, to reveal that Eggman and Eggman Nega were actually planning on taking this jeweled scepter for themselves. They conducted this whole plan. It wasn't a very good plan, guys. You'd think two Eggmans would come up with a better plan than this, but apparently not. And apparently their plan is so good that Sonic and Blaze have to turn super in order to defeat him. Yeah, that's, the plot is very thin here, but you're really not playing this game for the plot. You're playing it for the gameplay, and the gameplay is, well, the same as the previous game, but also adds a lot of unique elements. If you played the first Sonic Rush game, you'll recognize the controls immediately. It is pretty much exactly the same. It has the boost formula. Basically, you hold down the button there, and Sonic goes to boost, and you basically want to build up the boost by doing tricks, of course. And tricks you can do in the air, we're going off ramps and other springs and stuff like that. It's pretty basic. You played Sonic Rush, so you know how Sonic Rush Adventure goes. Really, the only thing difference here is the level design, and the level design is better in this game than it was in Sonic Rush. We got better level themes as well as actual better level design. There's still the annoying bottomless pits in some levels that Dimps loves to use a lot, but in this game there seems to be a whole lot less of them. Main levels are much better designed. This isn't the most ideal 2D Sonic experience, but it's fun for what it is. The new set of gameplay you'll be doing is that you actually get a map where you actually have to go to levels by sailing to them, which is actually a pretty neat concept. Reminds me of Phantom Hourglass, also on the DS. Here you have 4 vehicles. You start off with the Wave Cyclone, where basically all these games are stylus minigames. However, I actually don't mind stylus minigames, and these actually work pretty well. These are pretty basic. There's obstacles in the way. For this one here, which you're also going to need to use if you want to get the Chaos Emeralds, because they're all jet races. Basically, all you do is use the stylus to move Sonic around and do tricks based off the ramps give you the inclination to do. So they'll tell you to go right, left, pretty easy. And of course, press the R button to boost, which is actually not the easiest button combination, since if you're right-handed, like most people are, the R button is right there, so you have to use the stylus and try to hit it, or just use your left hand and wrap around it. It's not the most ideal. Should have just made it on the L button dimps, but oh well, it doesn't really matter that much. On the map, while you have main levels, you also have side islands you can find. Some of this being the Chaos Emerald races, which are kind of obvious because they'll have little blackout dots where they actually are. Basically, these are pretty much the same as the other ones, except now you gotta race Johnny, who is kind of an annoying guy to fight. First of all, in order to really do a lot of these, you actually have to upgrade your thing, which you only do near the end of the game, which is kind of annoying. So you basically can play perfect and still lose if you didn't upgrade it. And they basically want you to play perfect here. You have to get every exact ring and every exact boost in the right spot. It's pretty annoying. You can repeat it as many times as you want. While it's not the worst a Chaos Emerald minigame in the world, it definitely could have been improved by the difficulty just not being exactly perfect. Like, I don't mind replaying it if I fail, but sometimes I feel like I don't even mess up and I fail. It's very annoying. Also, seeing as how tedious it is to collect the Chaos Emerald, it's also annoying the fact that you have to collect all 7 Soul Emeralds as well, because that was necessary. Getting the Soul Emeralds is completely different. First, you have to do missions. What are missions? Well, missions are something you get from talking to certain characters in the game, which there's a couple to talk to in the little Hub World Island. And some of them will give you the Soul Emerald chases. Figuring out which ones are which, well, you gotta look that up, because it's not clear which you're talking to and what points you have to do in order to get the certain missions the Soul Emeralds are. Which is something that, well, why did they even do that in the first place? I don't mind playing the missions for Blaze, because they're fun. Basically playing stuff you already did, like boss fights and certain levels again, and you get a Soul Emerald. Then again, it doesn't really make much sense, but neither does racing a guy to get a Chaos Emerald anyway. So who really cares? But the fact that you have to fight, it's kind of like a weird maze to figure out where the Soul Emeralds are, where the Chaos Emeralds are completely different, is kind of annoying. I don't like that. Also, one thing you'll notice is when you complete a level, you actually go past a chest rather than a certain ring or a checkpoint you usually do. And these chests are just not there for show because they actually give you items. These items are used basically to upgrade and build new gear that Sonic will need to traverse the islands. So yeah, you have to replay levels sometimes. However, not really, because you can find a different accessible level out by sailing around, so that's something. That's alright. Speaking of levels, let's talk about the levels. The first level you'll find is Plant Kingdom, an opening level where there's basically giant mushrooms all around. It's kind of like Mushroom Hill Zone, but not really. This level is super easy and pretty short. There's not a whole lot of enemies in this game, so there's not a whole lot to be discussed. And since the gameplay doesn't really change that much throughout these levels, it's pretty basic. It has a nice aesthetic, but nothing special here, so let's go on to the next level. Actually, the boss fight, I should say. Unlike the boss fights of the previous game, Sonic Rush, which I found were badly, poorly designed and had very annoying gimmicks, like the fact that you lose your ring so easily, the Sonic Rush Adventure boss fights are actually really good, which is a shocker. The first one he fights a T-Rex, which is already cool. One of the things I like about this is, one, you have good access to your rings. I feel like you just you don't lose them as easily as you do in Sonic Rush. And two, there's multiple ways to hit a boss fight where you can actually get more hits than you need to, which is something I like in Sonic games, when you're actually able to hit a boss more than once if you know what you're doing. And this dinosaur guy is no difference. He's pretty easy, he just jumps around, he's gotta hit his head. And that's about it. He's pretty basic, and the biggest change is that the fact he goes underground during the second part, but other than that, this guy's he's piss easy, let's be honest. He looks cool though. The next zone is Machine Labyrinth. Nothing too special level design that we haven't seen in other Sonic games. In fact, Dimps has already used this level dynamic multiple times in Sonic Advance. Other than the drum mechanic there, which is basically nothing, it's very similar. We've seen gaskets shoot up Sonic, and we've been through pipes multiple times. This level is nothing special. It's pretty basic. It's alright, but uniqueness, yeah, this level definitely reminds you of multiple other Sonic levels off the top of your head. I don't need to say which one, because you were probably thinking about 10 right now. However, the boss fight in Machine Labyrinth is pretty interesting. We got a little guy on top that has pendulums at the bottom. You gotta hit the pendulums to hit it back up. Of course, he will throw out 2 more pendulums. Each one takes more and more hits to reach him, but they do more damage. So it's up to you which one you're gonna hit. Which one you can hit the one before he turns into a spike ball. There's also a little obstacle in the way. It's actually pretty interesting boss fight, because it's a little bit of a challenge and a spectacle to it. You gotta figure out which one do I want to hit, what's the best way to go with this. Should I go for the big one and get the most damage, but having to avoid more, or should I hit the little one to give it less damage, but safer? I like this boss fight a lot just for that. It can take a little while, but it's very well thought out. So at this point, you'll find a new ship in the Ocean Tornado. Basically, you'll get new ships, so you need to progress farther, and these ships will take you a little farther on the map, draw a line in order to reach new levels. The Ocean Tornado is basically very different, where you're not racing along, you're actually shooting enemies from a distance using bullets or bombs or fire. I don't prefer this over the other style because it's kind of just mashing the D-pad. Mostly bullets, since they're a lot more useful. The bombs just don't hit that well, and fire runs out very quickly, so you're mostly just shooting things with bullets. And you gotta hit rings or to fill up your gauge count so you don't lose it. It's not hard, it's just more tedious. It doesn't feel as rewarding as the other one, the jet ski, so I don't use this one very often, since I think the other boat types are better, but it's not bad gameplay. Anyway, the next zone is Coral Cove Zone, which is an underwater cave area, which has beautiful coral reefs all over the place, as well as something that's kind of annoying, which is, of course, the minecart. This minecart section sucks, especially during the missions which you have to do officially with Blaze. Sonic in a minecart just doesn't work, because usually minecart levels in games are about making your character go fast and on rails, but Sonic doesn't need to go fast, because he's already fast as hell, so doing minecart sections aren't the best. However, the actual level itself doesn't have a whole lot of that. In fact, there's a lot less water in this water level than you would see. It's very interesting design-wise. I really like the purples in the background and the foreground, and coral reefs are pretty, so, you like that, especially since this Australian level there, so, you expect to see that. The boss fight of this level, the Ghost Kraken, is pretty basic. It will shoot out a tentacle, and you gotta hit the one with the green bulb. Pretty basic. It's one of those boss fights, it's like, what is my weak spot? Well, it's the most obvious one, isn't it? Basically, it'll keep shooting out more and more tentacles that you can hit in order to dodge, and that's pretty much it. It does throw a little bit more at you, but it's not a very difficult boss fight. In fact, I think the previous boss fight was more difficult, even though it was fun. So yeah, like I said, nothing difficult here, nothing tricky. It is fun though, and that's something I cannot say for Sonic Rush's boss fights. The fact that boss fights are really fun here is actually kind of shocking, since Dimps does not have the best run of boss fights. And the fact this game actually does them very well is shocking. By the time you get to the next level, you actually have the option to choose to play as Blaze. Now, other than getting the Soul Emerald and Chaos Emerald, which are their own separate missions, playing as either character does not affect the game at all. So basically, if you want to play as Blaze throughout the entire game, you can for the rest of the game, or Sonic, it's up to you really. It's up to you. Would you rather have the little air boost or have Blaze's kind of floating thing? That's the only difference they have. Basically identical to the were in previous games. Anyway, the next level you get to play as both characters is Haunted Ship, which is definitely one of the best levels in the game because, well, we're playing on a haunted pirate ship and bouncing through the little sails on top and dealing with all this other stuff. It's actually a really cool level design. One is a great aesthetic. There's a lot of grinding sections, a lot of interesting barrel mechanics. You can bounce off barrels and other things like that, as well as getting swung around by anchors and these bouncy little blue things, whatever they are. I don't know what the blue ropes, I guess. It's just a very cool, well thought out level. Not only that well thought out, I mean the best as it could for this type of game. But yeah, it works very well and it's very nice aesthetically. It's very unique. Reminds me of Wario Shipyard from Mario Kart 7. Weird reference, I know. Haunted Ship's boss fight is also pretty unique, where you're fighting a ghost pirate robot who also has a pretty obvious weak spot. However, he can dislocate from his weak spot. You have to go up on the sail in order to hit it again, which is a very interesting concept. This guy isn't too hard. He does throw a lot of fire attacks at you, but they're pretty easy to dodge, and the game does lag at this part. Keep that in mind, something that they had a problem with Sonic Rush, and it's not as big a problem with Sonic Rush Adventure, but you will experience lag during some of the boss fights, which is a shame. At least this one isn't too bad. It's cool to fight a robot pirate skeleton guy. And after that, you'll be introduced to the new vehicle type, the Aqua Blaster, which is a combination of the previous two. Essentially, this thing goes around the path like the jet ski. However, you can hold and charge to shoot out bullets. If you charge it less, it shoots out less. Charge it more, it shoots out a really powerful one that can pretty much nuke the screen a little bit. As well as you flick the stylus a little bit, you can do a little spin, which can block certain attacks. It's very useful. This one's the most fun for me, even though I think jet ski might be a little better. But because it has a lot better range than jet ski in the map, I use this one pretty much the majority of the time, just because it just was fun to play as well as the fact you can get around pretty quickly. So yeah, I like this one. The Stylus minigames are fun. Anyway, the next level is Blizzard Peak. This is a basic snow level, and of course you can't have a Sonic Snow level without a snowboard. Yes, Sonic Blaze will go on a snowboard, which looks pretty similar to the extreme gear for Sonic Riders, if I do say so myself. The most unique things are there is half-pipes that are kind of awkward to control. But other than that, this is a very basic snow level. Nothing too interesting to see here. There is snowboarding a little bit in the beginning of the level, and yeah, that's really about it. It's fun to play, that's all that really matters, and I like the boat sections of Sonic Rush Adventure, but other than that, there's nothing too special about this game, if we're being completely honest. I still like it a lot, though. And honestly, this level's boss fight is not my favorite. It's just a whale that just comes at you really slowly, and then you hit its obvious weak spot, then you have to jump inside of its mouth in order to do a little level inside, which isn't a bad concept. The level is just kind of Just get to go on slow-moving bullet platforms in order to get to the spot, and you have a limited time to do it. I don't think I ever failed it, maybe once, but it's just not really that fun to do, if we're being completely honest. It's just alright. I think the biggest problem is this one takes a lot longer than the other boss fights, and it feels a little tedious after a while. You can kind of get tired of platforming inside the whale, even if it was an interesting concept. Anyway, the next level is Sky Babylon. Not to confuse with Sonic Riders again, because I keep making Sonic Riders comparisons. I have Sonic Riders in mind. Anyway, this level introduces you to a lot of bottomless pits. Previously, I didn't have to deal with that, but now we do. This level is actually the hardest level in the game, even though there is, I think, 2 extra levels after this. But yeah, because there's bottomless pits, as well as electric spikes that kill you instantly in certain areas, as well as dealing with annoying balloon mechanics. It's not awful at all, just some of the level sections of the area can be pretty annoying, where you're just falling and don't know where you're going, and platforms fall out from under you and you instantly get killed. It's pretty annoying. It's not the worst ever. If you play other Dimps levels, this won't be cakewalk, but in this game, it definitely feels annoying to deal with some of these mechanics that were introduced only in this level, and you have to get used to them. Like I said, not terrible. There's way worse in other Dimps games and other Sonic games, level-wise, but overall, I wish they didn't have certain, some of these elements. Like this stupid balloon. Now, the balloon looks fine, but when you're not first playing it, you actually don't really know your radius, because you have this long, big balloon that can pop easily, and to redo it, and you can easily fall to your death, or electric spikes that might be there. Not electric spikes, electric crap that just instantly kills you, which is not a very fun mechanic. But, yeah, it took me a while to figure out what my radius was so I can avoid the enemies. You can kill them, but you have to risk falling down in the bottomless pit by accident, so that's not very fun. What is fun is a very unique boss fight, not using the stylus, why did I say that? Yeah, you're the bottom screen while the boss is the top screen. You gotta hit these green badniks at the bottom in order to hit the boss at the top. The boss will try to hit you from the bottom screen, and basically you gotta balance it all out. It is actually a really fun mechanic, and it's the only time in this game you're actually really playing in 3D, so that's pretty cool. When I said 3D, technically the ocean areas are in 3D too. The whole game is in 3D, but it's 2.5D. You know what I mean. Anyway, following that is Pirates Island, which is the hidden base of the pirates, obviously. Well, not really, because they're robots the whole time, but it would have been better if they actually were pirates, you know? Sega should have done that instead of making them robots for Eggman and Eggman Nega, who, by the way, is a stupid-ass character. But yeah, Blaze and Sonic is running for the factory without Marine, because Marine sucks, and it's a pretty cool level. It reminds me of Pirates of the Caribbean, the ride, which is probably what they're going for. And there's actually a pretty basic level. There isn't a whole lot of bottomless pits or really hard obstacles. You're basically just running as fast as you can through all these anchors and water geysers coming up at you. And it's more underwater than the Coral Reef level. The only thing unique about this is that fact that there's actually a section where you ride a dolphin, as well as ride on some water, which is pretty cool. This is one of my favorite levels in the game due to all the unique mechanics, the great music, and the aesthetics are pretty cool. You know what more can you like? There's Echo the Dolphins right there. I mean, isn't that amazing? The boss fight of this level is Whisker and Johnny, who are you basically just kind of spam jump at them the whole time. There are spikes that will come on the floor. You can take upper platforms if you want, but it's pretty unnecessary. You kind of just keep jumping at them, and that's really all you do. They have attacks, but they're not very hard. It is a little chaotic at first, but once you figure out, like, oh, I can keep jumping on them constantly. They have 11 visibility frames, but other than that, they're pretty easy. Especially Johnny, he sucks. He doesn't even have any good attacks. So yeah, these guys, they're pushovers. Not very well-written characters. They kind of have weird designs, and overall, yeah, they're not that great. They're okay at best. But yeah, that was in Whisker's final appearance, as he's got this giant robot, which of course Eggman built for him. And this is the final boss of the main game without getting all the Chaos Emeralds and Soul Emeralds. It is pretty basic. All you're really doing is just breaking open a cannon on the other side. You hit the cannon, break it open, and then you shoot yourself up at Johnny's giant, not Johnny, Whisker's giant robot. And then that's about it. Just kind of rinse and repeat. It's a little slow, but it's not hard at all. But, you know, it's fine. Not the best boss fight in the game. Nothing terrible. The boss design is not that great, honestly, but it's alright. But it's better than the true final boss, which is very similar to Sonic Rush, where you're kind of just flying in an endless void of fire, and the Eggmans are using a scepter against you. I mean, you just shoot it back by using fireballs from the top screen. This one's actually not that great. It's actually probably the weakest boss fight in the game, to be honest. It's just not very good. I mean, we've seen a lot more creative and cool boss fights in this game, and this is the final one. It just doesn't feel that epic. Oh well. Anyway, Sonic and Tails beat Eggman, and with Blaze's help, they set everything back in order. They wave goodbye to Marie, never to see her again, not even really in the comics, because she barely appears there. I don't think she even appeared in IDW comics, and I don't know why. Characters like Gemerald have appeared, and she hasn't. We've seen the Soul Dimension too, and Blaze called constantly, but hey, I guess they really didn't like her. I can't blame them. And that was Sonic Rush Adventure. Not created by Sonic Team, it was created by Dimps. In a way, I can see why this game is kind of overlooked. It does have some glaring issues. The story isn't very well written, and the new characters introduced just aren't very likable. The new villains are okay at best, and Marine's not that great of a character. She's pretty bland and not really design-wise, and her personality kind of sucks. And the gameplay is just mostly Sonic Rush, and it does have these cool ship games of ship mechanics, as well as finding maps and stuff like that, which I enjoy quite a bit. However, I feel like a lot of people might not get into that. It's like, oh, I don't like the idea of having a stylus games. But trust me, if you like Sonic Rush, you'll like Sonic Rush Adventure. I feel like gameplay-wise, it's better. Well, I wouldn't say Sonic Rush formula is the best Sonic gameplay in the world. It is definitely fun to mess around with on the DS. And these level design and level aesthetics are definitely way better than the first Sonic Rush game. And it allows you to play a Sonic and Blaze pretty easily between the two if you want to swap them out throughout the entire game rather than having their own storylines, which you may or may not prefer, but I like that aspect. This game also has a ton of missions to extend the gameplay. In fact, I think there's over 100 unique missions that take gameplay elements from the game and actually make you do. If you really want to get into this game, there's a whole bunch of upgrades you can do for each of your ship things. Only one for each. That's not that much. And for your island, you get all this other stuff you can do for aesthetic stuff. You can talk to a lot of different group members. There's a little bit of RPG elements. I just wish the story was stronger to support that. But yeah, Sonic Rush Adventure is definitely a big upgrade from Sonic Rush Original. And I feel like you should go check it out. It's a pretty good game. Though I gotta mention one problem I have with this game that seems really out of ordinary, is that this game only has one save file, which, yeah, that's not the greatest in the world. The problem is, in order to erase your save file, you have to go find a specific quality guy to then find a specific menu that he has to say, and then you can delete your save file, which is incredibly annoying, especially since I had to delete my old save file in order to beat this game again for this review. I wish I didn't have to do that, but in order to do that, I need to look up how do I delete my save file. I should not be able to have to look it up on the internet how to delete a save file in a game. That's something that should not be necessary. Come on, Legend of Zelda from 1986 had 3 different save files. Come on, Sonic Rush Adventure, do better.
You've got to do better, Senator.
Sonic Rush Adventure was only released for the DS and never released ever, and seeing the fact that a lot of people haven't played this game, it's a little bit more pricey. Not extremely pricey. There's way more expensive DS games, especially if you want a Pokemon game on DS. Those are ridiculous. But yeah, $40 complete, $30 loose. It's definitely more expensive than the other Sonic games on the DS. Though I definitely recommend picking it up if you haven't played it already. It's definitely worth playing. It's fun. Here's the current Sonic the Hedgehog game ranking. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more Sonic videos. Next time I'll be covering Sonic Rivals 2. So I'll see you then.